Hi everyone, this is a crazy playthrough of my viewer's choice deck. It's not mine, it's your choice. With IT department in Jinteki RP, and I'm up against Chaos Theory. Now, this is a crazy game because when it played out Octagon, it took nearly 70 minutes. It was a very long, grueling game, and yeah, it came down to the wire. It really did. So I hope you find this interesting, and most importantly, I'm up against what could be considered as the hardest counter you can think of to my RP deck. We'll see more on that in a minute, but yeah, this is not the most favorable matchup for me. So once again, to remind you, this deck basically relies on IT department to pump net damage ice beyond where the runner can comfortably break it, and in conjunction with House of Knives, aims to flatline the runner. So if the flatline is not possible, it's still pretty easy to get up to 7 agenda points because of Caprice Nisei, and because IT department basically just shuts you out if you do not have a David. So I begin with a good hand, one that has 2 Braille Eyes, so I just spend 1 on protecting R&D. I use the Merlin instead of the Galahad. The Galahad is better early on, but later on, I know he's going to run Corroder, so yeah, Corroder chews through Galahad like nobody's business, so I'd rather have a Merlin. If he uses Guardian Blade, it will cost him at least 3 credits to run through every time, which is good for me. So now I'm basically just hyper drawing to find some ice to protect my Sundew, and I found it in the form of Lotus Field. So I'm definitely aiming to create a Lotus Field Sundew server next turn, and this should really exploit the fact that Chaos Theory is usually played with 3 big breakers, so it's pretty hard to find the correct breaker to get through my Sundew server. In the meantime, I'm speeding up the footage. There's not much to see here. He basically builds up his rig, and I build up my table with Sundew. He can try all he wants. He's not going to get agendas, one of which I tossed in archives, and because of that, I get a good Sundew going, and next I install Executive Bootcamp in the remote. This will help me tilt out whatever I need. I don't need it right now. He responds by installing HQ interface and scoring the first agenda of the game. That's fine. My RP deck is definitely weak early on. It will definitely leak a couple of agendas here and there. But I should be able to stabilize before he goes out of control. Now, during one of his accesses, he trashed IT department, paying 4 credits. So, to counter that, I'm going to interns the IT department back into the game. If he wants to trash it again, he'll need to pay 2 clicks and 4 credits, which is very, very taxing. Essentially, that's basically consuming his entire turn for my 1 interns. So that would be great. And my HQ is empty, so I'm not worried about his HQ interface. I already have 1 Sundew running, so the other Sundew is of little relevance. So he knows that I intern at IT department, so he's going to check it and trash it. But that's fine because that takes up a lot of his time. So basically, I'm stalling the game here to find more ice to protect IT department, and I draw into my Philotic Entanglement, which is not what I want to see. I can easily sneak it on the board, but I'd rather sneak out a House of Knives because it's less risky, and because Philotic doesn't give me as much benefit as a sneaked out House of Knives does. The game continues with him building up his rig. Again, nothing much to say here. It's a very slow early game for both sides because he was forced to run and trash so many of my cards, even though he's managed to start with a first turn test run to scavenge Magnum Opus. He cannot fly too far out because, he cannot go too far out of control because I'm forcing him to run every single turn, spending lots of precious clicks and money trashing my important assets. And that's the thing with RP. There are so many important assets that you have to trash. Sundew, Executive Bootcamp, you don't have to trash that, but Daily Business Show is a must trash, so that's problematic. Now here, he plays the perfect card to counter me, an Artman 4. Ouch. Yeah, only a torch would be better in this case, but yes, it basically renders every single piece of ice on the board right now useless, including the one on R&D. And because of that, his surprise HQ jump netted him his second agenda, the Philotic. That was very, very painful for me. Thankfully, I snuck a House of Knives on the table and he did not bother checking it, so I'm going to score it. Once again, this is the strength of my deck, being able to sneak out a House of Knives like this. But my mandatory draw landed me with a Future Perfect. bad news. If he hits it on his HQ run and he can easily run HQ, knowing that it's a Lotus field, for 1 credit he can break through it, I'm in trouble. If I lose a side game, it's game over. So I want to be very careful about it. Thankfully, he's pretty poor right now. And yeah, I still do have an NAPD in my archives, so that is something I'm looking to get rid of ASAP, which I can do by sacking Daily Business Show, Executive Bootcamp for Jackson Howard. But I draw into Daily Business Show instead, and that is getting out onto the table, along with another Sundew. Force him to trash it. So once again, I'm basically forcing him to run at this point to slow him down, because otherwise I can't really keep him out. I need to set up an IT department server before I can get rolling. And right now, I'm just not drawing into the correct ice. There's a Komainu, which is pretty nice, but that means I need to find the IT department now, which I can do with Executive Bootcamp. We'll see about that. He finds the Future Perfect, but fails the side game, thankfully. Otherwise, that would have ended my game. Yeah, right there. So he attempts to go for it again. Nothing much I can do here. Hopefully he doesn't hit it. And I get lucky. So yes, he senses blood. He knows that the end is near. He just needs to find my Future Perfect, but he can't get to it. So instead, he checks my remote. Once again, I'm just wasting his time right here. He's forced to trash the Daily Business Show. He's down to 1 credit. Alright, so I draw into a Galahad. Now that he did not contest my IT department, I'm good to go. I set it up, and with 2 power counters and a Komainu protecting it, it should be good. At the very worst, it'll force out his Deus Ex, which I expect him to be running. He has an SMC on the board, which is pretty threatening, but hopefully I can get past it, knowing that he's so poor on credits after having just trashed my Daily Business Show. If I can survive this turn, I can pump IT department up to ridiculous amounts, and that will really snowball me out of control. So here, he has no choice but to click for credits. Magna Opus is doing a lot of work for him, but can he safely run my IT department server? I wouldn't think so. He runs archives though, and that poses a huge problem because that gives him his 3rd agenda for 6 agenda points. He's definitely on match point now. I cannot leak a single agenda more. Alright, so at this point, do I decide to sack Executive Bootcamp? Nope. I draw into another Future Perfect, and this is, this puts me on red alert. It's time to find the Jackson. The Jackson that will relieve me from agenda flooding. He seems very passive, afraid of R&D runs, and I want to keep it that way. He knows that I'm running Grail Ice, so yes, he should be very afraid of running into Grail Ice when I have an IT department on the board. Because if he cannot deal with the Grail Ice, he's going to lose his rig, he's going to lose cards from his hand. That's not good for him. I spent my other 2 clicks pumping up IT department, so now it's at 4 power counters. That's pretty important. Alright, he doesn't contest my archives of Jackson, so I'm able to relieve even more agenda flood and continue pumping IT department. So I basically have my credit set up because he did not contest my Sundew, and I have IT department working for me as well, making it very scary for him to run into any server with an unrest card, because if it's a Komainu, I can now pump it. No, I cannot. Yes, I need at least 6 IT department counters to be able to pump Komainu past the 10 strength mark. That is the key. Being able to pump Komainu out of Deus Ex range will make the game much easier for me. I'm not able to do that just yet because of the new IT department ruling. If you're not so sure on it, do check it out, because it's a little unintuitive and can be very confusing. Basically, how it works is that the number of counters you spend multiplied by the current value of IT department plus 1 is the total strength pumped. So if I spend 3 IT department tokens right now on a Komainu, it will be increased by 3 strength times 3, because there are 2 tokens left on IT department after spending 3. And IT department says including the 1 just spent. So 2 plus 1 makes 3, and I spent 3 tokens. There's a total of 9 strength. Komainu can go up to 10 strength, which is not enough to defend against Deus Ex, which is at 10 strength. But once I get it past 6 tokens, I'll be able to lay the hurt on him, basically. If he runs into R&D, he's also pretty screwed because Merlin starts at 4 strength. So pumping it by 9 strength brings it up well out of Deus Ex range. So the AP subtype won't be a liability. So yes, right now we're just discussing in chat how IT department works. At this point, I'm not really too intent on firing it unless he runs into my net damage ice, which is Komaino and Merlin. That would set off some fireworks. My only concern right now is SMC because he can literally bring out anything with the SMC as long as he has enough credits. So I'm not too sure what Sentry Breaker he runs. It could be a Garrot, it could be a Femme Fatale. Femme Fatale is especially scary because it ignores strength. You just bypass the ice as long as you can pay for the subroutine. So that is something I need to be worried about as well. In the meantime, he runs and into my Lotus Field. Here, I decide to pump Lotus Field strength to distract him into thinking that I actually have agendas in hand. I don't. I've shuffled all of them back with Jackson, which I sack preemptively in case he's running Hades Shard. I haven't actually seen any of his influence yet, aside from the HQ interface. So I'm definitely suspicious that he's running some form, some high influence stuff, something that I haven't seen yet. So whether it's a Garrot or a Morningstar, I need to be wary. He hasn't shown too much influence yet. And he finally trashes my Sundew again. No worries for me, it's just wasting his time. I'm still reserving the House of Knives tokens for when they will be most effective. No point using them now, they won't slow him down too much. Meanwhile, I'm pondering over my next move. Now that my Sundew server is emptied, I can actually start scoring agendas in there. So the game continues with me building up. I find a Komainu and I secure my remote server with the Komainu. Now that I have an IT department going, I can easily place the Komainu out of Deus Ex range. Which, speaking of Deus Ex, he does get one on the board. Apparently he drew into it. So in the meantime, I'm just wasting his time, forcing him to trash my mental health clinics. But I do have to be careful about his Deus Ex. No worries though, IT department is pretty solid right now. And he did miss an opportunity to trash my IT department. Right now, I mean, back when it had 5 tokens or less, he could SMC out a Deus Ex and get past my Komainus. But now that's not possible. And I punish him when he attempts to run R&D by raising a Galahad against him. A 9 strength Galahad with trash a program and the run. So that is really annoying because Galahad is basically the best piece of ice against Shapers. The biggest weakness of the Grail Ice is that one of them is an AP, one of them is a Destroyer, which means Lancelot and Merlin are both susceptible to the one-use breakers that are Sharpshooter and Deus Ex. Not anymore. With Galahad, I can raise the strength up very high and still inflict nasty subroutines on him. Program trashing, I would definitely have sniped off his Atman for. Unfortunately, he runs David, so that's where his influence went to. His bacon was saved, and now my game just got so much harder. I saw he had 2 clone chips on his table with a David. He's going to be able to get through a lot of my ice, even with IT department up and going. My biggest worry is that with a David, he can almost certainly break through my IT department server without much worry. Who cares if your ice is strength 25 when David breaks all the subroutines? So yeah, that's not good news for me. So yeah, he does end up breaking the program subroutine and jacks out, which is a very smart thing to do. If he spent all 3 David tokens on the Galahad and continue on, I would show him the Merlin and he'll be in the whole world of hurt. So that was very good intuition by him right there. And he promptly jacks out. Now passing over to me, I find the Caprice Nisei and continue hitting on IT department. So now IT department's at a point where it's ridiculously overpowered. With 9 power tokens, yeah, he there's very little he can do against most of my eyes, except for David, which works incredibly well. That being said, he has to worry about every single unrest piece of ice on the board, which means the only safe server he can run is HQ. If he runs any other server, he's going to take some risks. And here he does. I show him the Komainu on the remote server, and instantly it goes up to 17 strength. Octagon doesn't handle IT department properly, so I have to do that manually. But basically, I spend 2 tokens, 2 times 8, which is the number on IT department. 7 plus 1 is 8. 2 times 8, 16. Plus 1 strength on Komainu. That's a 17 strength Komainu that he has to deal with. Wow, the thought of a 17 strength Komainu just makes me shudder. So, Deus Ex can't save him here. I hope he has a sentry breaker. For his sake, well, he doesn't. His SMC is gone. His clone chips can bring back an SMC, but that would mean he will run into memory issues, and he doesn't have enough credits to bring out a proper sentry breaker anyway. So what's he gonna do? He can save himself. How would you save yourself in this situation? I'll continue on with part 2 in another video.